Hey everyone, Jason here, host of the BombCast, with my guest in the office. We've had some people that we've done live with, but never anyone that's actually come to the BombBomb offices to join us, so I'm super excited. So without further ado, Javed, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, why you're here with us this week. You've been hanging out in the BombBomb offices all week, so it's been pretty fun.
It's been amazing. I'm Javed Khan. I live just north of Toronto, so a Canadian down here in Colorado Springs. Loving it. Had an opportunity, I thought, just to come down and just really get to know the group, get to know the organization. It's an amazing organization, so I'm just here to hang out and be with you, Jason, and talk about some really funky things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and Javed is an amazing marketer. He is a consultant, national speaker. So when he told us he was in the offices, we thought, what an opportunity to have him come and share with everybody on the BombCast. So thank you guys for joining us. Again, drop your name in. Let us know that you're watching. Drop us a heart, a like, a comment, something to make sure that we're making this interactive. Because this isn't just going to be a monologue. We'll be able to answer your marketing questions, talk about video, talk about ways that we're using video in the process and in the system. So tell us a little bit kind of how you got into this world of marketing and kind of consulting and helping large organizations kind of come to this new way of marketing.
So I started many years ago. I was in marketing groups with investment firms in Canada. Had a great time supporting our sales teams from a marketing perspective, and then realized I perhaps can do this stuff on my own. And in April of this year, we celebrated our 10 years. So we have a marketing services company that offers 4 various services, including content, web, digital marketing, digital media, and brand management, brand strategy. And our why of doing this, and certainly my why of starting this organization, was I wanted to help engage entrepreneurs and organizations market with a purpose, really to think through their marketing, not only strategy, but their marketing tactics.
Right.
So our sort of mantra is we help organizations market with a purpose. That's our why of doing this. And just having a great time, and we're introduced to many amazing people, and through my travels as a speaker, I just meet a ton of interesting people, and therefore I started a few months ago, probably late last year, I started a weekly show called Small Talk. Cool. And so Small Talk celebrates the art of the conversation, and we're having a fun time doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to be getting into today, some extremely tactical things. We're going to be getting into strategies. We're going to be talking about the digitization. I'm going to work on getting that word out of the salesperson and what that process really looks like. So if you're joining us, welcome. If this is your first time on the BombCast, I saw Chris is just joining us. Welcome. You guys want to hang out for the full time. We'll be on for about 30 minutes or so. So again, make sure you're dropping your comments and your questions in, and we'll be addressing those kind of as we go along. Now, if you've been watching the BombCast at all, you know that from time to time we like to interview our guests before we get into their areas of expertise and learn just a little bit more about them than their bio, right? Everyone's got the bio, but we're real people, right? And so we got some questions, and I'm going to put Javed on the hot seat a little bit and ask him some key questions. So first question, and again, just so everyone knows that's watching, these questions come internally. We play a game internally called the new person game. We're hiring at such a rate that sometimes it's hard to get to know your new employees that are coming in. So every Friday when we have a company lunch, we have a new employee, we put them up in front of the entire company, and we ask them a series of questions. And that way everybody kind of gets to know them. So that's where these questions are coming from. So we're pulling you in as almost a new employee, giving you some of the key questions. So the first question is, where were you when you first heard BombBomb?
Where was I when I first heard BombBomb? I was online. I saw a particular, I think it was a Facebook ad that I found, and that triggered right away my interest, and I went right to the website. Yeah.
And about how long ago was that?
Oh gosh, that was early to 2017.
Okay.
First quarter of 2017.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, and what was the best part of growing up there?
So the majority of my life has been, I would suggest, in Richmond Hill, Ontario, Canada. Best part was, just the amazing community that I was around, and all the friends I got in Richmond Hill. I think that was really what I liked a lot about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Name a food that you could eat for the rest of your life without fatigue.
Oh wow. Name a food. That's a good question. God, I'm a foodie. I love all kinds of food. I don't know. Let's say Let's say wings.
Okay,
I could
do wings.
I could do wings.
Okay,
I could do wings.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, I'm not either, but I'll go Star Wars.
Okay,
to be honest.
All right, now if you're a member of a rock band,
yes,
what part are you playing?
Oh, I'm easily drums. Easily.
Okay.
Easily.
I'm
a drummer.
Playing the drums. Do you actually play drums?
No, I wish I did.
Okay, you just wish. Okay,
no, I love drums.
So we got some classic questions that we always ask, and sometimes these can be, a little bit on the edge, but I think it's okay. Would you rather own a leprechaun or a unicorn?
Leprechaun.
Okay. Which house would the Sorting Hat of Harry Potter place you in? Do you know? Are you a Harry Potter fan? Okay, then we'll strike that one. Name a cartoon character that you just want to punch in the face.
I forget the chicken, the big chicken.
Okay, yeah.
I forget the character's name. Chime in if you know.
Yes. I know exactly who you're talking about. He's super annoying.
It's super annoying.
Yeah.
I forget the name.
And last question. Thank you guys for playing along and watching as we learn more. But if you were to have a spirit animal, what would it be?
If I were to have a spirit animal? Good question. I'm going to think tiger.
A tiger.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm thinking tiger. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
See, we're going a deeper level, people.
Deep.
This is more than just some marketing talk here.
Exactly.
All right, so let's jump into it. When we talk about the salesperson and where we're at in 2018, obviously the processes and systems have changed, and we've moved way more into this digital space. What are some of the trends that you've really seen, and how that's kind of affected salespeople that you're working with?
So there's really three that come to my mind. I speak about this on a number of occasions in some of the speaking talks that I have. But the three that come to my mind that I mention to sales folks quite regularly is the first of all is that people are now more active than ever on this thing called the mobile device. So you've got to find a way to be relevant on this mobile device, or at least something that is on this device that is going to continue to have you be relevant. Number two, with regards to social media, there is some even greater interaction now on social media to the point where there is some great conversation going on, and you've got to figure out it as a salesperson or just as an individual, as a business owner, what social channel resonates with you and your audience well. And the best way to find out is you just got to simply ask. You got to ask your audience. And number three, I find now that there is what I call the ultra-informed consumer. So people now, regardless of what vertical or industry you're in, you're going to come across the ultra-informed consumer. These are people who are doing tons of research well before they either pick up a phone or send you an email about a product or service that you have. A great example is, Tesla. Go through the Tesla process. They're not all about transactional. They're about the experience. Right, so their reps don't ask, "Hey, Jason, what would you like?" They ask Jason, "What color? What color are you interested in?" Because Jason is the ultra-informed consumer. So that I find those three trends are certainly happening more and more.
And I think something that's interesting about the idea, like the ultra kind of informed consumer, is that you're entering into the conversation.
Yes.
You're not defining the conversation.
Correct.
And that's hard because a lot of times in the sales process, you're kind of you're starting the conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Whenever they're coming to you for whatever service or product you provide, you get to kind of set it. And now they're coming in and they may be multiple days, months into the learning process.
Right.
And so now it's about learning how to insert yourself into the conversation and understand who else they're having conversations with and where is their information coming from.
Right.
And kind of being able to help digest all of that.
Right.
And then make sure that they want to work with you as that salesperson.
Right. And to that point, that's where you have to figure out, Glenn, how do I differ if I'm a real estate agent or a broker, a mortgage broker, or whatever, financial advisor, whatever those industries you're in. That's why I always say you got to figure out how do you then differentiate yourself when they reach out. When they finally make that contact, they've searched you out on LinkedIn, they've looked at some of the articles that you've either written and some of the stuff you've done online, or they've looked at reviews. Now, how do you differentiate yourself when someone actually makes that first call or leaves you a message? How do you differentiate yourself right away? Yeah. First thing I'm starting to do quite religiously is video. That's my differentiator. I send video messages, and I'm telling you, I get people saying right away, how in the world did you do that, number one? And number two, all right, you need to come and talk to us because clearly your approach is very different than a marketing services organization that we were trying to connect in before. So,
right. So the cool thing, you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
So as we talk about this, you're clearly in sales, right?
Yeah.
You got a company, you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
So this isn't just kind of theory that you're putting out there. You're putting this into practice.
Listen, when I go back to Toronto, I've got a meeting with some serious senior executives in the beginning of the month, and that's purely because I sent a video message congratulating this person on a particular role. And now, after further conversation, after a few other video messages, this person's like, look, you got to come in and talk to us about some of the stuff that you're doing. So I just find, and Jason, you mentioned this before we went to film, before we went live. Now, this is all about your personal brand, right? This is how do you up your game when it comes to your personal brand. And that's really important in this conversation we're having today.
It is. And it's interesting, too, as you think about it. And, if you've been watching the BombCast or just paying attention to really anything happening online, I'm sure personal branding is something that you're hearing and talking about. But what it is, I think it's interesting is, I think a lot of people can think personal brand if they're a solopreneur, right? Or they're running their own business.
Right.
But more and more, people that are working in larger organizations are trying to figure out personal brand.
Right.
And you might have a logo that supports you, that's providing all the types of things, and that's an element of the brand. How are you seeing salespeople kind of brand themselves within a brand? Like when you think about that process as a salesperson, like why is personal branding still important or relevant in that space?
Well, I think the first thing from my perspective and my experience is the way you're approaching and the way you're representing your brand. So good point of, this conversation today is not just about people who are watching and who are on their own or maybe have a couple of people working with them. This is also a conversation if you're watching and you're at a what I call a tier 1 organization, a very large organization. This is even more important for those HR professionals watching this. And if they're not on watching it, send this conversation to them because, when you are representing a larger brand, the number one thing that I find is you've got to understand, first of all, ask the bigger picture, what is our corporate messaging? What is our corporate influence? What's our consistency in messaging? So that I, as a representative of the brand, aka brand ambassador, can then find ways to differentiate and incorporate that messaging in my communications to individuals.
Right.
So if you're a salesperson, I used to work at a number of very large organizations that had 95 to over 100 salespeople, both external and internal. The conversation was always about what's our key messaging that can support what we are asking of our client base outside of the company.
Right,
so that's important. But when it comes to your personal brand within that, you got to figure out how do I differentiate within the consistent messaging that's been provided.
Well, because it still comes down to know, like, and trust.
Exactly.
Right? So the brand is probably creating that for you, especially if you got great brand equity. People are probably talking to you because of the brand, whatever the services that might be provided. But ultimately, you still have to get that end consumer to trust you.
Correct.
And like you and know you. And that's ultimately the difference between a great salesperson and a not so great salesperson is the ability to have that type of connection.
And I also think that the last point in this part of the conversation is the ability to be able to embrace. Like you've got to now, especially if regardless if you're sales or you're not sales watching this, you've got to understand and embrace that the changing times is occurring. There are more and more people on these things. Yeah. There's a lot of conversation going on, either through messenger, texting, email communications, video. And it's now the conversation is, well, how do we embrace this as part of our bigger sales process? Yeah. How do I embrace it as terms of my bigger sales process? Rather than doing I don't know how many people actually pick up the phone these days if you're going to do a quote unquote cold call.
Right.
How many do that anymore? We'll do it in a different way, but you got to embrace the whole digital world, hence the digitization of the sales process. Right.
So Chris has a great question, and then we're going to get into some pros and cons of this new world. But so as a salesperson, he's doing the first video is going great. Do you have any suggestions kind of in the follow-up video? Really, is it more of a pre-recorded video or kind of a custom video every time?
So that's a great question, Chris, and thank you for chiming into this conversation. I think there's a few things that I'd want to just instill. So I love the fact that you're doing the video. So, hey, 2 thumbs up on that. At least, you're doing it.
Yes.
Many people just get all shy of doing it, but thumbs up to you, Chris, that you're doing this. I would suggest moving forward also, what I try to now treat my video messaging, I'll treat it as voicemail. So if I do get something on this thing in a voicemail, I won't call back. I'll send a video message as part of my response to a voicemail.
Yeah.
On the flip side, instead of sending a phone call and leaving a message, I'll do a video message as my quote unquote voicemail.
Yeah.
I would also recommend, Chris, and this is what I've been mentioning to some salespeople. You know Chris more than anyone, and certainly everyone who's on this live chat today. People are always going to ask you the top 3 or 4 questions that you're always going to get asked over and over again. To your point, Jason, that's where maybe you want to create these evergreen videos that you then provide in advance so that you can get that out of the way and then get right into the value conversation. You send them a couple of videos about your organization and some of the things that they're going to constantly ask you. Then you don't want to waste your time on that part of the conversation when you meet with them face to face. Do those evergreen, and as Jason said, do them pre-recorded, send them out in advance, so that when you meet with that individual, then you can get right into the value conversation that you're there for, that you're there to increase that relationship.
Yeah, and you leverage that. I think, Chris, some of those pre-recorded videos as ways to overcome the objections, right? Yeah. Because in the very beginning, when you're first connecting with someone, you know that they might be looking not only at the specific vehicle, like in your case with coming to you at the dealership, but maybe they're also looking, whether it's that vehicle or the brand of vehicles that you're offering, but being able to differentiate yourself right off the bat and overcome those objections of why they want to work with you and your dealership versus someone else. And you can come at that front ahead. So I do think sometimes a combination of both is a great way. Sometimes it's also scaling. You can do what feels like a custom follow-up without saying a name. We talk about this all the time, talking about you language. So it's a personal video without being personalized. So the person that's watching it doesn't know that everyone gets that same video, but it feels like you're talking to them because you say, hey, thank you for coming by today. And just using you language versus saying, hey, everyone, just wanted to follow up, right? Instantly, that creates a different experience. So just make sure you're working that in. And so you can have a custom follow-up without saying their name, speaking to the
amazing
side of things. So let's talk a little bit about this new world we're living in, right? It can sometimes feel very like a tension. I don't know. I talk to a lot of salespeople. Overwhelming maybe is another good word, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's just so much. There's Facebook, and they're changing the algorithms, and there's Instagram, and then there's Snapchat, what's going on there, and there's all sorts of things that's changing. Is anybody still on Twitter? And it just feels like this very overwhelming world to be in within the digital space. How are you helping salespeople kind of navigate those waters and make sure that they're spending the right time in the right places?
100%. Great question, Jason. So here's what I'm saying. First and foremost, stop. You have to stop doing all of this. I have to be here. I have to be here. I have to be here. Just stop it. Pause. Look at your comfort level. Look at where your audience is, and then put just one focus on one channel and do it really well. It's like anything else, right? So there are many people who are wanting to be on everything, and that's a challenge to do if if you've got all kinds of other things going on. I'm saying, look, start with one social channel, do it really, really well. Once you're comfortable with it, then go out to your audience and ask what's their next social channel they're on, and then go on that one and go on the next one. But you gotta focus. You've got to be consistent on that social channel, and then provide that value, right? So you're not always on that channel just trying to sell or getting some attention. Find ways to get content from other sources, build your content, create some content through video, answer questions that you get, create a video out of it. You're getting a bunch of questions. Hey, I'll use you, Chris, as an example. Hey, it's Chris, the car guy, maybe that's
the bald car guy. He just chatted, and that's his branding. He's the baldcarguy.com. So
there you go.
Great personal branding.
That's brilliant, Chris. Here, it's Chris, the great bald car, right? Then talk about here's the question of the week, and maybe you do that every week, or maybe if you're not comfortable with that and you can only do it every second week, whatever. The point is, it's consistent. Stay on one social channel or two. It depends on what you're comfortable with, but most importantly, it's got to be consistent.
Yeah,
it has to be consistent. That I think is important, right? So hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely. Now the other thing is, and we kind of briefly touched on this, but want to get your kind of perspective on it. So we're talking a lot of social, all these other ways to get out there, but there's this little thing called email, right? That's still around. That's sometimes I think almost becoming more relevant than ever, right? Because I think if anyone's paying attention to what's happening on Facebook and these algorithm changes and who owns the right data to what, email is kind of that ability as a marketer and a salesperson or whatever. It's your direct access to who it is you're communicating with.
Right.
And I think it's, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And in the future podcasts, we're going to be exploring some of this because I think it's really important right now, is that I think email is actually going to be making a resurgence.
Oh, yeah.
And coming back because, if you're on Facebook and you put a post out there and you're getting 2 to 3% exposure as a business page, but you're getting a 20% email open rate or even a 15% email open rate, you're getting better engagement and better interaction with your audience on that side of things. So email is not, even though it's been around the longest, and it's the longest platform we've been dealing with kind of in the digital space, more than not right now, I think it's relevant, and salespeople need to be thinking about how they're using email. So what are you, how are you seeing that work and some of the systems around email and email marketing?
Jason, I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm a huge fan of email marketing and email communications, and for 3 reasons. I'll give you 3 reasons. Number one, when you look at return on investment on any digital tactic, anything that you see about research around digital tactic, number one, email continues to be the number one digital tactic when it comes to return on investment. As a matter of fact, $1 will return approximately $40 back when you're dealing with an email tactic communication. Item number 2.
Wait, hold on. Let me just. You said $1 spent on email marketing gets you a $40 return.
Correct.
It's pretty decent ROI.
It's still the highest rated ROI when it comes to digital tactic. I'll give you point number 2. Point number 2 is the fact that you own that data. You're not leasing or renting the data, because people are looking at me and say, what are you talking about? Well, when you're generating all the data on any social channel, you don't own that data. It's not yours. You're renting it from whatever social channel you are on. So you're owning that data when you're collecting email information and you're building your email community. And that's where the money is. The money is where you're collecting your data. Number 3, and probably I would suggest even the most important, we're all getting emails on a mobile device. That's what we're checking. If it's from one of the social channels or you're from your friends or your loved ones, you're consuming it on all email. You're consuming it here as the third point. So email marketing, I have had so many people, Jason, say to me, what is this, the 1970s? Email marketing? What are you, crazy? I said, no, if you do it well, there is multiple best practices that you will, hopefully if I have an opportunity to do this next time in the future, there's multiple best practices around email marketing, not email blasting. It's email marketing that once you implement that, you will get the return. And, Jason, you mentioned open rates. I think that's great. But we look at, when we're dealing stuff with organizations or even in our own little community, we're looking at click rates. How many people are actually physically clicking on a button that we've told them to click on?
Yes.
If there's 90% open rates, well, that's fantastic. But boy, of the 90%, if 80% of them actually clicked on something, Crystal, I use you as an example, clicked on and went to your dealership website or wherever you told them to go, that's brilliant. That is awesome. And I love the fact that whatever software you use, you can see that engagement. You can see where they're clicking and how many times they're going and when they're doing it. So then it helps you from a data perspective to say, wow, my audience, they're not really clicking on in the morning. Wow, a lot of them are clicking on through the lunch. That's interesting. So the next campaign I'm going to send out, well, guess what? I'm going to send it at around lunchtime or near lunchtime, because I know they're going to sit down and have their lunch, and they're probably going to go through this and start looking at the stuff that they missed in the morning. So
I think
things.
That's key. And to that data point, where I watch most marketers fail is in that. They do all the work for the campaign, the creative, the words on the page, the videos that they're doing. They send it out, and then they just wait for a response. And they wait for the phone to start ringing, or they wait for a reply. And what they're missing is all of that data that lives in the system or tool, or you're using BombBomb or whatever it is, to get back in and see who opened, who played, who clicked, and then segment. Segmentation is your best friend, because now you can pull out those people that did those activities and start having a relevant conversation to them that, frankly, you can't always do even on social, right? I mean, sometimes you can do retargeting ads, but retargeting is just segmenting in the email world. And we've been doing that for a long time with a lot of success. So I think a lot of times people can't forget about that side of things.
I think that's the key right there, is when you're looking, one of the tactics, one of the action items for everyone today, if you're saying, okay, geez, what do I need to do next with email? I'll tell you right now, stop. pause your email campaigns or anything you're doing email. And Jason, my brother here, said right away, hey, look at your list, segment your list. It's amazing that there are people collecting amazing data. And then when the first question I ask is, great, so how many segments did you create? They're like, oh, segments? What are you talking about? We would just send it to everybody.
Yes.
And the key thing that Jason just said is relevancy. Why would you send something to one of your audience members who perhaps lives in a different part of the country, either in the U.S. or Canada, when you're pushing an event that's happening local? That doesn't make any sense.
Kills me. I get that all the time.
I get it all the time.
Real estate agents marketing properties to me that are in Rhode Island. I'm like, really? Here's the thing, and I think really what comes down to is ego.
Yep.
Is that if I segment and I'm segmenting out my list, all of a sudden my list size may not be as big as it was.
Correct.
And I think, oh man, I'm not going to get as much reach or whatever that is. Get over yourself, frankly, and send to the 100 people that have opened the last 3 emails. You're going to get a better return on that than sending to the 500 and feeling all good that you're sending to 500 people. So
I'd rather 100 highly engaged, highly relevant contacts versus 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of quantity. I'm a huge fan of quality. So even if I have a list of 10, great. Those 10 people know people.
Exactly.
Right? So if I'm offering continued value as a real estate agent or a lawyer or a dentist or whomever, you're a car sales guy, hey, that's huge, because they're going to look at that and say, wow, my buddy who's going to buy that car that I know they're going to do it. Hey, I got to send Chris's note to them.
Right.
That's
Love
key,
it.
Right?
Okay, so let's. So now we're on the email track, kind of talking about this, and video we've been talking about. Let's talk about video and email, and get tactical when we're talking about sales process and how people are doing video and emails.
Yes.
What are some of the ways that you're seeing sales professionals win?
Okay, so well, actually, I'll give you three things that
you love the threes. I love the
threes.
So,
right?
so hopefully you guys are taking notes.
I love the three, right? So here's so number one, have either a plan. So like, if you have, or now you have confirmed a meeting with Jason, so the meeting has been confirmed. Great. Make a note of yourself to create that video. Again, it could be a generic one or it could be a custom. I would say customize it and have that ready. Either do it right away or have it ready to go an hour before you see Jason. Boom, it goes out. You have that meeting. Great. Item number 2, have a video ready to go an hour later.
Wait, so that first video though, let's get the first video. This is pre-meeting. An hour before you have the meeting, and what are you saying in that video? Hey,
Jason's Javid here. I'm looking forward to our meeting today at XYZ Cafe or XYZ Restaurant. Look forward to talking about A, B, and C that we've already talked about online. That's it.
Yeah. So it's just a confirmation.
Just a confirmation.
And with that, do you see that you have a level of warmness when you see the person at the cafe?
First thing they say, dude, love the video.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I see.
Cool.
They don't respond. They'll wait for me to show up, and they're like, dude, that was a great video. Yeah. How did you do that? So that's number 1.
Okay.
You have your meeting. So I have the meeting with Jason. I have already a video. Again, as Jason said, it could be evergreen where you're using the U, or you can create a custom if you want. You can create it on your app, either in your vehicle or when you get somewhere outside, and have that sent out. It could be an hour or 15 or 20 minutes after you're done. Hey, Jason, it was a great meeting. Yeah, great follow-up. I've got a few things on my list. I'm going to get back to you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate all the insights we shared. I'm looking forward to this collaborative relationship. And hey, stay in touch. Boom, right? And then that's item number 2. Number 3, at least a week or so later, start sending them some valued content of stuff that, in my case, Jason talked about. Just stuff that you want to help. In this case, I want to help Jason out with. Yeah. That doesn't mean selling, by the way. I'm not going to send him any selling stuff. I'm going to send him stuff, either one video that is going to be of any relevance to the conversation we had, or I'm going to send him something that he mentioned could be potentially a pain point that I'm going to help him with. Yeah. It's all about helping, right? Yeah. It's not, I mentioned in one of my talks, it's no longer ABC, right? We all know always be closing. Well, it's now ABH. ABH is always be helping. That's the key. Yeah. Always be helping.
Yeah, right? Love it. Okay, so appointment follow-up, or appointment confirmation, appointment follow-up, and then value through the process. Right. Love it. Yeah. So that's the email. Love that tactic. I'm sure there's a lot of others. We sadly don't have all the time to get into. I want to pivot a little bit back to social. Yes. Because we were talking about LinkedIn kind of before this. And that LinkedIn is really one of those spaces now on the social, especially for any professional It's a space that you need to be paying attention to. It's a different type of space that's still kind of defining itself when it comes to what is it really good for. Like, several years ago, it used to be the place where you put your resume up and build just kind of those connections. It's very, very noisy. I felt like it was very kind of it was a lot of take. Like, I need to build up all of these things and these connections with people. And then they were bought out by Microsoft, and then they started to move more into being a social network, being able to build better connections with people. Now you're starting to see value adds come in, where it's a news feed similar to a Facebook situation. But what are tactics? How are you seeing sales professionals really leverage LinkedIn in a meaningful way?
Okay, so again, threes, right?
Okay.
So number one, no particular order, but here's the first thought. Let's go back to the scenario. When I have already now confirmed a meeting with, in this case, Jason, first thing I'm going to naturally do is I'm going to hop on to LinkedIn. I'm going to get to know about Jason. I'm going to research, his college career. I'm going to research some of the mutual connections he may have. I'm going to research some of the activities on. Maybe he's posting a bunch of great stuff, because I'm going to use that as part of my video message, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it as part of my conversation. So I always say the first conversation I have when someone talks to me about anything LinkedIn, I say, look, LinkedIn is your online professional statement. It is your online professional statement about who you are, what you do, why you do it, and how relevant you are and who you're connected with. That's really what it is. It's your online professional statement. So, like it or not, there's going to be people creeping me today who are going to say, who is this guy? They're going to go and Google my name, and like it or not, 99% of the time, the LinkedIn profile is going to pop up. Or if you're on LinkedIn and you've Googled me already, like it or not, it's going to happen. So I always say, number one, have your LinkedIn profile solid, so that, because that human behavior is going to happen. If they're going to go there and they're going to see crickets everywhere, they're going to start scratching their head and saying, gosh, maybe I should not really spend my time with this person. Maybe it's a waste of time. Number two, when you're on LinkedIn, look for community conversation. Jump into conversations. If you're going through your feed, and I always say, start with an hour a day on LinkedIn. It could be a half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, or if you want to do, 30 minutes morning, 30 minutes in the lunchtime, and 30 minutes in the evening. Start with that. The point is, jump in there and start getting engaged with conversation. And that doesn't mean that you have to engage with people that you know. If Jason sends something out about, an individual at BombBomb and they're celebrating the individual's birthday, jump in there and say, hey, JK, hey, happy birthday. I don't necessarily have to know the person, but jump in there. If there's a good conversation going on, jump into the conversation and add your value. Don't sell, but add your value to it. That's number two. Number three, use it as a sales tool. Use it as a prospecting tool. Look at seeing what type of people do I want to get in front of. Well, look at your connections and see if there are anyone in your connection, your community, that can introduce you to the individual you want to get in front of. So start using it as a prospecting tool. I can tell you, when you start using it as a prospecting tool, like, world's your oyster. There's so much of information and people that you can connect with. Now, I'll give you even item number 4. The big hot thing right now in the LinkedIn community, and I'm quite involved in it, and there's a lot of influencers, they call themselves, when it comes to video content, it's video. Like, it's massive. Like, the thing that's really, I think Jason now use his term, is really pivoting the LinkedIn social channel, the world, is this whole video inclusion. Now, there are video creators on LinkedIn who are making amazing videos and generating thousands upon thousands of reviews and hundreds of comments. Now, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen to you right away, but if you continually do it consistently, again, it's not necessarily about quantity, it's about quality. Just keep doing it, right?
So let's talk about, so someone's had a great question. Would you send a new client request to be added on LinkedIn or Facebook right away? What are you doing?
I'm a LinkedIn. So here's what I do is before I send a request, I do at least 5 minutes or so of research. I just find the key points that I can put into my customized note that would resonate. Right away, I ask for permission. So my first thing, you can use this, folks. I say, hi, Jason, would you be open to connecting? So I'm basically asking Jason, can I get your consent to connect? And once I say, would you be open to connecting? Then I say, I'm adding my community of financial advisors in California, or whatever that is. And then I always end off with something positive. This is all in my invite. I always end off with something positive. Hey, Jason, I saw you doing some amazing work with the Colorado Springs shelter. That's awesome. Keep up the great work and look forward to seeing you soon. Once that happens and Jason says, yeah, I'm in, he says yes, guess what I do? I have a pre-scripted video ready to go. So once Jason hits, yep, I want to be part of your community, I send this intro video in my messenger to Jason right away. I differentiate myself right away with a video message on LinkedIn Messenger.
And this recently worked for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was, I think Ethan was telling me a story that you had reached out to someone that was just maybe promoted into a new position.
Big
like,
time.
tell us a little bit about that.
Gentleman was promoted to a senior executive role, I would say number 2 or 3 from a very large organization. Read about him on in a trade publication, knew of him in the past. Great article about him. And then I sent him a video message I found through my sources, his email. I sent him a video message holding up the news article and saying, hey, so-and-so, wow, congratulations. This is amazing. I said, and I read through his article. Then I connected with him on LinkedIn. I sent him a video message after. And I would suggest Jason, this guy, like right away, and I'd say right away within a day or so, reached out to me by phone, said, wow, first of all, I've never had this type of interaction before. Number 2, thank you so much for reaching out, and I love this video thing you're doing. And number 3, we got to meet. So now when I get back to Toronto, I'm meeting with him and some of his senior executive team. Just
off of a video, off of a friend or a connection request on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and no agenda. I have no agenda. I just was saying, hey, dude, congratulations. This is amazing. That's all I was saying. I wasn't wanting to have them do anything with us. It was just like, that's it. But remember, I'm just... it's as anything you mentioned this, and I love some of the things that BombBomb's doing is they're talking about it's bringing the human factor in, right? We've really dehumanized this whole online thing. We got to bring the human factor in, and that's what people I think are aching for. They're aching for having the LinkedIn locals and meeting people face to face. They're aching. That I find is now I'm going to suggest is the next big wave coming through in the next couple of years. Is this whole video and messaging and stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
So good. We've gone over time here, so thank you for everybody that's been joining us, watching. If you got other questions, please type them in. We'll be happy to answer them. And I always love to end asking 2 questions. I didn't prep you for this. Okay. So this is another just kind of off the cuff thing. But I always love learning for people who are into their business, who are thinking about their business. What's something right now that you're just obsessing about in your business?
For me, video. That's what I'm obsessing about.
And how? Like, how are you obsessing about it? Like, what are you watching? What are you paying attention to? Like, what does that obsession really look like?
For me, it's I'm obsessing around the types of videos I can create, or the types of videos that I'm seeing other people are doing, and trying to share that in my own little way. Right? So I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. There's all kinds of other people on LinkedIn that I'm a fan of. So I'm obsessing myself as how do I, I've got this small talk show. How do I take this and I'm slowly taking it to another level where I'm now having people come in and say, look, I want to be on your show. Or, hey, I saw your show. I'd love for you to come on our show. So that's what I'm quite obsessive with right now.
Very cool. And so in the next 6 months, what's something that you're going to begin doing that's going to be making an impact on your business around this obsession?
I think one of the things we're looking to really focus quite a bit on our small talk show and up it with regards to the podcasting version of it, but also create these. I do a lot of talks, a lot of speaking gigs, so trying to create these video snippets and send out 1-minute video snippets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. While you're chatting, Lauren dropped a question in. Specific follow-up, boss. Does it automate emails when a new lead comes in? Absolutely, Laura. We got a crazy cool integration with Follow Up Boss. Go to their support site. It'll have all the documentation. You can do some really, really cool advanced things with both BombBomb and Follow Up Boss. So great question. Thank you for that. So otherwise, I think we covered the majority of the questions. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the BombCast today. You're going to want to join us next week on Thursday. Same time, same place. We have Jason Ferris coming on. Real estate professional out of Fresno who branded himself around Yes. And over the last several years has built a community Facebook page that has over 25,000 people a part of it, where he's providing value. He's doing some really cool stuff around community videos. He's doing cool stuff around food videos that he loves good food. And so you're going to want to be a part of, learn some really cool key strategies and tactics around how to do community engagement from one of the best guys that I've seen out there who's been doing it for years. So make sure you join us then. Thank you again for being on.
Awesome.
Wonderful guest. So appreciative of it. Thank you, everybody that's been watching, and we'll see you guys on the next BombCast.
See ya.